Everything in your life improves when you shift your paradigm. Many years ago, I was doing a talk show in a radio station in Canada, and a lady called in. It was a call-in show, and a lady called in, and she was really upset. I mean, she was not happy about what we were saying at all. She thought we were being a little ridiculous in some of our statements. She said, like, when I was going to college, I wanted to be an author. And she said, I have 3 kids. I just can't pick up and go down to Associate Island and write a book. And I thought, wow, this lady is not a happy camper. And I was going to ask her, where the kids came from, but I decided I'd leave it alone. And I said, well, I know a lot of authors, but I don't even know one that went down to Associate Island to write a book. I said, one exception. I said, John Graham was the creative director at the Nightingale Kodak Corporation, and he took all big pile of radio scripts of Earl Nightingale's and went to Bimini, and he put together a book, and it's called This is Earl Nightingale, and it's a great book. You might go online and see if you can find one. They're out of print, but they're still around. This is Earl Nightingale, and it's really a good book. Well, I said, that's the only exception. I said, why don't you get up an hour early every morning and write a page? Get up ahead of all your family, make yourself a pot of coffee, and write a page. And by the end of the year, you'd have 365 pages written. And then the following year, you would edit those pages. So I said every couple of years, you could have a book. And you would have the time with your family at the same time. And I thought, that's a hell of a good idea. So the next morning, I was up early, and I started writing. And I got the book, You Were Born Rich, out. Because everybody's born rich. Most people are just a little short of money. Well, that book changed our business. A book is a funny thing. Doesn't even matter. I remember Fred Herman put one out one time. He was a great sales trainer. Everything you need to know about selling. And it was a hardcover book. It had a red cover on it. There was nothing in it. He says, no one knows everything you need to know about selling. He was actually selling that book, and he sold thousands of them. There was nothing in it. It was empty. We would call it a journal today, but that was his book, or one of his books. Books are funny things. Books create a perception that is in the imagination of the holder. You're automatically an international expert if you have a book, which is pretty ridiculous when you think about it, but that's perception. If you've got a book, let's suppose there's 2 real estate agents, or maybe 3, and you're calling on them, you're going to list the house with somebody, and the one has a book, and he said, well, you're thinking about this, you might want to run over a few points in the book, and they write a little note inside and leave it with you. Who do you think's going to get the listing? You see, books are great things. Books are salespeople. Books are an extension of you. And if you're in a business that you want to create a bigger image, you might want a book. Now, this lady was in a seminar, I think it was it was at least 35 years ago. It was a long time ago. She was a young 19-year-old administration assistant or something, and she was not a happy person. She was losing, and she was very unhappy. And the company that she worked for hired me to come in and speak at a conference, and she was at it. And I said something, and like that, her life changed. I quoted Vernon Howard where he said, you cannot escape from a prison if you don't know you're in one. Now think about that. You cannot escape from a prison if you don't know you're in one. And everything shifted. Her attitude, zoom, over the other side, and she has become extremely successful. She has any number of people that she's coached and helped take books right to the top of New York Times bestseller list. She has, I don't know, 8 or 9 books of her own that are in 30-some languages now, all over the world. She does an absolutely phenomenal job. She is one of the best book coaches that anybody will ever find. As I'm saying that, I'm thinking of Wendy, because you've told me how much she's helped you with the book. Now, I had a man here in town one time. He was a playwright. He said, "Proctor, you should write a book." He said, "Everybody's got a book in them." And I believe that's right. Everybody does have a book in them. So I'm going to ask you to listen really carefully to what she says. And if you've got that desire inside, bring it to the surface. This lady is really good at it. She's a good friend. She works with myself and Sandy in the Idea Expansion Program. It's Peggy McColl. Come on, give her a big hand. Take your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. You know, when Bob was talking about that book that was written about everything that we need to know about sales and how it was empty, there was nothing inside because nobody really knows everything that we need to know about sales. It reminded me of another book that I heard about, another author. She wrote a book written by a male doctor that said everything men know about women. And that was empty. That's true, right? And so it also reminded me, one of my books, I have 12 books, but one of my books that I wrote actually has 4 words in it. And the 4 words are repeated over and over and over again. And it's a book called The Last Diet Book Ever. And the 4 words that are in it say, eat less, exercise more. Because it's simple, right? It doesn't have to be complicated. And you know, when we think about having a paradigm shift, it really isn't that complicated. When Bob's up here and Sandy's up here and they're sharing things that we should be doing, there's simple things that we could be applying in our life to make a dramatic change. And at first it might just seem like a little thing, but when we do it, we follow through. Like when Gina was up here this morning, she said, "How many of you followed through on that exercise last night?" And many of you raised your hands. And I actually had dinner plans last night, which I canceled, because I wanted to go to my room and do the exercise. And sometimes there are little things that we have to sacrifice in order to create the life that we want. But whether you're thinking of writing a book or not, and I know some of you have been thinking about writing a book. Pavel and I had a conversation last night. Pavel's 16 years of age, and he came up to me to share with me an idea that he has, which I believe is a brilliant idea. But one of the things that a lot of people have is when they're thinking about writing their own book is they're thinking, what do I have to say? And Pavel's 16, he's thinking, you know, what would I have to say? I'm 16, or now, if you wanted to write a book, you're 10 years of age. But I'll tell you something, people get behind you. When you have a dream, you know, I saw Wendy and Mick up here this morning holding the pillowcases saying, big dream. Wendy's working on her book right now. When you have a dream, people will line up behind you to help you. They will help you, regardless of what that dream is. So I'm going to share with you this morning, I will talk about the book industry. I will talk about what's possible for you and how it can positively change your life. But I'm going to embed and integrate into my message the value of shifting your paradigms as well. Because I could be up here all day long sharing with you manifestation stories of things that I've manifested. Just before I went on, the gentleman over on the side of the room was saying, I remember you telling that story, and every time I see you, I think about you in your bathtub. Now, I don't know if my husband would like to hear men are telling me that they're thinking about me in my bathtub, but I will talk about how I've used paradigm shift techniques. What Bob Proctor has taught me over, it's actually been 38 years when I first met him, when I was 19 years of age, and I was in a seminar in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, where this company that I was working for hired Bob to come in and do a keynote address. And I did not want to go. And it was a big room like this, and all the employees came in from across the country, and it was mandatory that we went to this event. I wasn't into personal development. As Bob said, I was miserable, and my life was a reflection of what was going on inside, the misery, the anger, the frustration. I really felt that life was miserable. You know, when Bob was talking at the lunch the other day about heaven and hell, I felt like I was living in hell. I felt like I was in a prison, but I didn't realize I was in a prison. And he quoted Vernon Howard, and he said, "You cannot escape from a prison unless you know you're in one." But I was in one then. And so I got to the room late, and they were getting ready to start, and I was looking for a seat in the back of the room. There weren't any. There was only one seat in the front of the room. And they sort of hustled me up and said, you know, sit right here. And Bob said some things that evening that completely shifted my life for the better. And he said, if you want your life to change, you have to change. But you've got to understand how it works. You've got to stay in the study. So here we are, 38 years later. I'm in the front row. I bought a table for this event. I'm here. I'm in the study, and I will stay in the study until the day I die. But you know, one of the things, thank you. One of the things that I have found, and this is kind of an interesting concept when we think about sharing our own experience, sharing our own knowledge, is one of the best things that you can do for yourself is to give to another. Give to another. You've got something. You've got an understanding. You've got knowledge. You've got your story. You have your experience that you can share with another. And as Bob said, there isn't a person in this room that doesn't have a book in them or multiple books in them. Rachel and I were talking about that yesterday. Rachel's working on her book, and she's discovered she's a pretty phenomenal writer. I discovered she's a pretty phenomenal writer. And you know what's great about writing a book? You know, Bob gave an example of a book that's blank inside. I gave an example of a book that's blank inside. I gave an example of a book that I wrote that's 4 words. You don't have to be a great writer to write a book. You can get a ghostwriter or get an editor that can make your book look great. Now, Rachel, you just happen to be a phenomenal writer. And she was talking about how she's writing this book, and now she's got ideas for other books. And that happens. You become an author, and it's almost like some kind of a virus or a bug that gets inside you, and then you want another one, and then you want another one, and you want another one, and you end up producing multiple books. Now, sometimes, you know, when I'm working with people and I'm talking about what's possible in writing your book, they think, who, me? You know, I could be a successful author. I could be a New York Times best-selling author. I could have my books in 100 countries in the world and translated into 37 languages. I don't think so. But you know what? I have discovered a method of really determining, this is a surefire method to determine whether you are destined to be wildly successful as an author. And we're going to do it right now. Are you guys up for that? Okay, great. Now there should be mirrors in front of you on your table, little blue mirrors. I brought little mirrors for everyone. Okay, now let's stand up for this exercise to get some real energy in our body. Okay? Now, if you are one of those people, if you're one of those people that was chosen from above, from the capricious gods, to be a wildly successful author, take this mirror and hold it about an inch from your mouth and go like this. Now, did you fog the mirror? Yes. All right. You're destined to be a phenomenally successful author. Isn't that great? Now, has anybody not fogged the mirror? I've had people tell me that they didn't fog the mirror. Now, I'm wondering if they're alive. If you didn't fog that mirror, you're not alive. But, you know, we've been talking about, you know, Steve Jobs, you know, stood in the mirror and looked at himself. Am I going to be doing what I really want to be doing today? You know, when he looked in the mirror. There's so much power in this mirror, and I want you to hold this and keep this mirror with you. Put it in your purse, keep it in your pocket, because that power for you to create anything that you desire in your life, to create that phenomenal life that you would love to have in your life, is right there staring back at you in the mirror. That's who can do it. Just stare in that mirror. And if you're having any problems in your life and things aren't happening as fast as you want them to do, or you're not having the money that you want, where's the problem? In the mirror, right? That's where the problem is. So the power's there, the potential's there, and we just got to get out of our own way. Now, I do have 12 books now. I've been on the New York Times bestseller list. My books are in 37 languages and sold in over 100 countries. That wasn't a goal of mine for many, many years. I did get to a point there where I decided that I was going to write a book. And I remember when I made the decision, and I am not a great writer. I'm not a great writer. I've read many books, hundreds and hundreds of books. I still continue to study every single day. But I decided that I wanted to share my own understanding of the materials that I've been studying for so many years to help other people. So I made a decision to write a book. And I remember when I went to my parents and I told them that I was going to write a book. You know what they said? You're going to write a book? So I didn't have the support system there, to really say, you go, girl. You can do it. I see you're writing bestsellers. I see your name on the New York Times bestseller list. I didn't have that. But I didn't need that. Because sometimes we have to be our own best cheerleader. We've got to cheer ourselves on. Now, I'm not saying my parents weren't doing what they thought they knew was best. I know they loved me. They probably thought they were doing me a favor by saying, what do you want to do that for? And what do you have to share? But I decided to pursue it anyway. But when I sat down to write my first book, I really didn't know what I was doing. But if you've read a book, you can see the flow and the understanding and the style of most books. So I just looked at other books as models. And then I thought logically, well, what would make sense as far as putting the ideas in order? And every book has one central theme. One key message. Now, there's going to be a lot of content in there, but typically there's one key message. And this morning when Bob was talking about that woman who called in on the radio show and he suggested to her, you don't need to go to an island to write a book. Just get up earlier every day and write a page every day. You'll have a 365-page book. And then you can edit it the next year. So I decided, it was October, actually, was the month that I decided to write my book, and I got up every morning a little earlier than normal, set the alarm and got up, or the opportunity clock, that Zig Ziglar used to call it, set the opportunity clock, got up a little earlier, and I sat down and I wrote. And I sat at my computer. Now, there were some days I did not feel like writing. So what I did was I got some of that crazy glue, I put it on the chair and some on my rear end, and then sat down, and I just, even though I didn't feel like reading, I want to get up, I want to go look out the window or maybe go get another coffee. I didn't. That's discipline. I just stayed committed to the outcome, and every day I wrote. And at the end of October, my book was done. But I'll tell you something, it was a phenomenal growth experience for me. I wasn't writing the book for me, I was writing it for others, for other readers. But it's amazing how it can change your life. And I was talking to Pavel about that last night, how it can change your life by just making that decision and sitting down and getting on with the work. And I remember thinking while I was writing the book, it doesn't even matter if nobody reads this book, because of the growth experience I was having within myself of the practice of writing the book. But I decided to bring that book, bless you, to the marketplace. And when we look at the book industry, there's two routes you can go. You can go the route of self-publish your book and bring it out to the marketplace, which is a really easy thing to do and a lot faster than the traditional method, which is a publisher, where a publisher will agree to publish your work and they will bring the book out to the world. So I decided to go the route of self-publishing because it was faster. It would allow me to get my book out into the world. So what I did was I made the decision that I was going to get this book self-published. And I was a single mom at the time. I'm married now, happily married, another wonderful way that paradigm shift has made a big difference in my life. But at the time I was a single mom with my young son, Michel. And I remember having the experience of not only having the priority of being the best mom that I could be as my number one priority, which always has been and always will be, but also doing work that was meaningful and being successful at it. But getting into the author world was a completely unknown arena for me. I really didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have the knowledge and the understanding of what's required at that time to be successful. So when I self-published my book, which was called On Being the Creator of Your Destiny, I printed 3,000 copies of a hardcover edition of the book. And I had them deliver them all to my home. And when the truck came to deliver the books, and they had cartons and cartons of these books, the guy came to my front door and he said, "Ma'am, where do you want these boxes? I have a truckload of them." And he said, "Do you want them in your garage? You want them in your basement?" And I said, No, just bring them in here. Just put them right here in the front room here," because I had the ignorant assumption that when you write a great book, the buyers will come. And I really thought that that book was just going to be flying out the door. And that was not my experience. It was not my experience. But what was happening is months and months and months were going by, and I was so focused on this book, and I thought, well, I need to get it into bookstores. That's where people go to buy books, right? So I managed to get my books into bookstores. What I learned is that bookstores are consignment stores. You don't get paid unless your books are selling. But then I learned that the books aren't selling unless you're driving the traffic into the bookstores to buy the books. You got to be the one that's responsible. So what I did was I decided to invest in an expert, somebody who knew something about selling books. So I heard about this seminar going on in Los Angeles by Mark Victor Hansen. And I figured he knew a thing or two about selling books, with his Chicken Soup for the Soul series being in the Guinness Book of World Records. So I decided to go to Mark Victor Hansen's, invest in his program, and learn what he knew about being successful as an author. So I went to his event, and they had a number of different speakers, including Mark, but one of the speakers, a guy named Gerald Jenkins from Traverse City, Michigan, got on stage, and he runs a publishing company, and he got on stage and he said to the audience, he said, if you're an author and you've written your book, 5% of your job is done. And I remember thinking, did I just hear that right? Did he say 5%? Because to me it felt like a lot of work, right? And then he said, let me repeat myself in case you think you didn't hear me right. He said, if you've written a book and you've published it and it's out in the world, 5% of your job is done. 95% is the marketing. You've got to get your books out there. You've got to be the marketing. Even if you go the traditional route of a publisher, the publishers are still expecting you, as the author, to do the marketing. You've got to build your brand. So that was an eye-opening experience. So I decided I'm going to find someone who has created success as an author and done it from the comfort of their home. And look at the streamers. We've got 110 countries, people from 110 countries that have joined us this weekend. And I thought, I can do this from the comfort of my home. I can reach people no matter where they are in the world, no matter where I am in the world, and I can market my books. So I found someone that had sold thousands of copies of his books in a very short period of time. And it was a guy that was a student of Bob Proctor that Bob had mentored. Bob had actually suggested that he write a book, a guy by the name of Joe Vitale. And Joe Vitale was marketing his books online. He became an online marketing expert. So I called Joe up on the phone, and I reached him. Now, I didn't know Joe. I didn't have a relationship with Joe. You know, one of the things that I find people say is, well, I don't have the network, or I don't know the people that you know. I didn't have the network either. I didn't have an email list. I had a website. But we've got to stretch. We've got to get to that point where we're going beyond our comfort zones. We've got to do these things to be successful in life. Create some new paradigms. So I asked Joe, I said, what did you do? Tell me what you did. And he told me. And I took a lot of notes. And then I followed through. And I found that people are really hungry for this information. They're hungry. They want your book. They want your idea. They want your materials. They want to know what you did, Matt, to be successful. 6 matrices. And the reason I go back is because my business increases every time. Keith, you know, what you've done to build your business. People want to know. They come up to you and say, how'd you do it? How did you do it? How did you do it? How did you create that happy relationship? How did you attract that soulmate into your life? How did you become such a great mom and have such a strong relationship with your children? People want to know. It's our responsibility to feed the hungry. And we can do it with our own knowledge, with our own experience, regardless of what it is. Now, what makes every book unique is you, the author. Kevin's writing Passion Never Retires. What makes Passion Never Retires unique? That's not a new concept, right? But he's going to bring light to it. He's going to build a brand around it. And he's writing the book, Passion Never Retires. And people want that. Because people retire, or they're getting to that point, and they start to wonder, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And Kevin wants to help them make the rest of their life the best of their life. That's what's in his heart. But you can do things in a way that can generate revenue. You see, I'm a businesswoman. I'm an entrepreneur. I have generated millions of dollars in profitable revenue from the comfort of my home. And it's all from thinking about what is it that people really want? What do I have that's of value that I could bring to the world? And would they invest in it? So one of the things that I did is after I launched my first book and people from 26 countries were buying the book and all those books that were sitting in my living room and my dining room in the cases, you know, snaking out the hallway, I sold all those books. And then the readers would be emailing me saying, what else do you have? I'm thinking read the book and apply it. But they want more. So I thought, well, I'll create a course. I've been doing this webinar. I'll create a course. I called it the 8 Proven Secrets to Smart Success. And I delivered it online. One week, one class. The next week, another class. I give them suggestions. You know, this is what I suggest that you apply in your life. And then I was speaking at a conference right at the point where I was delivering this online course. It was Gerald Jenkins' conference, actually. I got to know Gerald, who was the speaker at Mark Victor Hansen's event. He had me come and speak because I was getting success out there in the world selling my books. And I didn't realize that a tiny fraction of authors are actually getting that kind of success. I just thought everybody must be doing this. It seemed so obvious to me. But it wasn't obvious to a lot of other people. So I'm at this conference, and I'm talking about how I launched the book and sold it into 26 countries and sold out all my supply and generated all this revenue. And then I came up with the idea of doing the course, and I launched the course, and I was delivering that from the comfort of my home, and it generated even more revenue in my business. And Gerald came up to me and he says, Peg, he says, if you take that book or the course and you put that content together into a book format, he said, I could sell thousands of those. Well, that's music to an author's ears. So I said, great, I consider it done. A month later, I had that book done and released it to the world. And then I released another book called Be a Dog with a Bone. Now, I wrote Be a Dog with a Bone because I realized that as an author, or as someone who was pursuing her dream, it was like a dog with a bone. I grabbed on tight to that dream, and I would not let go. Even though other people, like my parents, said, who are you to write a book? They're trying to pull the bone away from me. And I remember when I was young, we had this little dog, Peppy, and she'd grab a hold of her rawhide dog bone, and you try and drag it, take it out of her mouth, and you end up dragging little Peppy all over the room, right? Because she's grab on, she's not letting go. And I realized that if you want to be successful in life, you got to be like a dog with a bone. Never give up on your dreams. And so I self-published that book, launched that book. And then I had all kinds of people coming to me, like Hay House, hiring me to help market their books. Robin Sharma, who wrote The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, came to me. So then I had an idea for another book, a 4th book called Your Destiny Switch. And it was based on principles that I've learned from Bob. Switching, paradigm shift, right? We got to stop focusing on what we don't want, or focusing on the voices in our head that are contaminating our results, and create new paradigms in order to get what we want. So I created methodologies that I was applying in my own life. So I got an agent. This time I decided this book I want Hay House to publish. So I got an agent. We did up a proposal. She called Hay House, the president of Hay House, Reed Tracy, and he bought the rights to the book. Now my agent, a lady by the name of Kathy Hemming, was formerly the president of HarperCollins. And when I first started working with her, she said, I'll shop your book around, and usually the way it works is we send it out to all kinds of different publishing houses, and then we'll see if anyone's interested, and then we'll set up meetings. And I said, no, Hay House is going to buy this. She said, oh no, you don't understand. That's not the way it works in this business. I said, you don't understand. This is done. In my mind, it was already done. I saw it, I believed it, I knew it. So that morning, this one morning, she says, okay, I'm sending it off to Hay House. She sends it off to Hay House. I went for lunch with my assistant. I'm having lunch, my cell phone rings. I see it's Kathy. I pick up the phone. She's like hyperventilating. I can't believe it. Hay House just bought the rights to your book on the phone. And I said, well, I knew they would. Now, reason why publishers, if you're interested in finding a traditional publisher, the reason why publishers are interested in books is 2 reasons. 1, it's a great book idea. 2, you're an author that's demonstrated that you know how to market your book. They're very attracted to that kind of thing. Why is it that Sandy was talking about they got a 4-book deal from Penguin Tarcher? Now, do they think that Proctor Gallagher Institute can market? Absolutely. It was a good deal for them. And they're the largest publishing house in the world right now. So Hay House picked up the rights to their book, and I made a decision, because Hay House was buying this book, that I would make my book a New York Times bestseller. So what I did was, the cover was done in advance. So the cover was done before the book was actually done. I had the cover printed. I went onto my library and I found a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, And I got out the scissors and I cut out that gold embossed emblem that's on the front of Rich Dad, Poor Dad that said New York Times bestseller. And I cut that out and I put it on the cover of my book. And then I went to the Office Depot store and I made color copies, multiple color copies. And then I framed one and put it on my desk. I had one beside my bed. I had one in the mirror in my bathroom. I had one on the refrigerator. Had one in my car. Had one in the family room. Wherever I was, most of the time, I had it there so I could see it. I could visualize it. I made the decision the book would be a New York Times bestseller in advance. And then when the book was launching, again from the comfort of my home, using the power of the internet that allows us, no matter where we are in the world, like 110 countries in the world, to reach each other, I marketed the book, getting the help of many, 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 many others, complete strangers, that again I had to stretch myself and reach out and ask for help. And I made that book a New York Times bestseller the day it launched, which was May 1st. Thank you, Tammy. Then what did my parents say? My dad had passed on by that time, but my mom was there. And it was interesting, the response that you get from others around you who may not be supportive when you're pursuing your dreams, and they start to see you manifest things. My mom started volunteering to come and help at my events, right? Which was really nice of her to do. Now, one of the goals that I had was to get the book to #1 on Amazon.com as well as on the New York Times bestseller list. But I had a tough contender, Harry Potter. I never beat Harry. I didn't get it off the charts. My web designer actually showed up at my house the night that we had launched the book, and of course, orders were just pouring in from all over the world. And he had created this image, because he was so creative. He had created this image where he put Your Destiny Switch at #1 and Harry Potter at #2. And he came in the door and he handed me this sheet. And I was like, oh my God, it's #1. And he said, no, I just created the visual for you. It didn't really happen. But it was a fun experience nonetheless. But what happens is, Bob was talking this morning about what it can do for you, in your career, in your life. Like when you achieve that, when you make yourself a best-selling author, like Rick is, you're an international best-selling author, nobody can ever take that away from you, right? Nobody can take that away from you. I know there's many best-selling authors in the room already. There's many people in here that I've worked with that have been through my programs. But that's what I love about it, is that when you hand out your business card, it can say international best-selling author or New York Times best-selling author, or on your website, New York Times best-selling author. Or when you're being introduced, they're saying New York Times best-selling author. It's a credibility builder. There's an assumption, whether they read your book or not, that you must know what you're talking about, or you must have some kind of a talent. So it adds a lot of value to your life as well. When I launched Your Destiny Switch, I was actually ready with another book called 21 Distinctions of Wealth, Attract the Abundance That You Deserve. I had written a proposal for that. And because we had just launched that book, got on the New York Times bestseller list, I said to Kathy, go into Hay House now while things are hot and exciting, and sell this book as well. And she did. So I received 6 figures in advances from publishers, and that is kind of like unheard of. It's a rare event. But publishers love authors that are selling their books. They also bought the rights to Be a Dog with a Bone, because I had self-published that book and brought it out to the world, which also helps you understand that you can self-publish a book yourself. If you do want a publisher, bring it out to the world, show the publishers that people really want your books, and then they will want to buy the rights to your book as well. Gets it into even greater distribution. Then Hay House bought the rights to another book that I wrote called The One Thing, which is the one secret to a totally fulfilling life. And these clients started to come to me. Bob was talking about Wayne Dyer. Wayne Dyer is somebody that I've studied. As a matter of fact, back in, it was 1980, when Bob had told me to get a book called Your Erroneous Zones by Wayne Dyer, that's when I started to study Wayne Dyer back then. And I was a big fan of Wayne Dyer. And then all of a sudden I'm getting calls saying, can you help me? Can you help me? I remember when Neil Donald Walsh contacted me, and his book's Conversations with God. I loved his work and loved his material. And he had called me and asked me to help him take his book to the top of the charts as well. Because when he contacted me, he says, I understand you've worked with Marianne Williamson and Debbie Ford and Wayne Dyer, could you help me? Now this is actually a manifestation story. I just want to interject here. We're talking about paradigm shifts. When Hay House was working on the production of publishing Your Destiny Switch, as I said, I had a ghostwriter actually work with me on that book, which was a recommendation of my agent. So we hired a ghostwriter. She wrote the book, my ideas, my concepts, my strategies. She wrote the book. And so the book went into production, which takes several months before the book's actually released. The cover was getting designed, and the guy who was designing the cover called me one day, and he says, Peg, I just want to know what name should I put on the cover of the book, who's writing the foreword? I just need the name for the cover. I don't need the foreword, I just need who's writing it. And I've been thinking about it, but I hadn't really secured anyone to write the foreword. I said, can I get back to you later? And he said, sure. So I just sat down and I just asked myself a very relevant question to anything is, what would I love? Who would I love to write the foreword for my book, Your Destiny Switch? And I thought, Neale Donald Walsch. Neale Donald Walsch has had a big impact on my life. I would love to have him. Now, I didn't know that Neale knew who I was. I certainly knew who he was. I'd read all his books and been to his events, things like that. So I just saw in my mind's eye Neale Donald Walsch's name on the cover of my book. And an hour later, an email lands in my inbox, a personal email that I've never received a personal email from Neale Donald Walsch before. A personal email lands in my inbox from Neale Donald Walsch saying, how does one get the great Peggy McColl to help them launch their book? He said, I know you've helped my friends, Marianne and Wayne and Debbie. He said, could you help me? And what do you think I said? Sure, if you write the foreword for my book. And he agreed. He wrote the foreword for my book. But I'm not saying that to impress you. I've helped many authors, hundreds and hundreds of authors get their books written, make them bestsellers, extend beyond their books. Greg Braden's been a customer of mine, Marcy Shimoff, Sandra Taylor, Nick Ortner. I helped him with the tapping solution. Because anybody can do this. It's like when Bob was up here yesterday saying, there isn't anyone in the room that can't create success that I have or anyone else has. And it's the truth. Anyone can do it. Another one of my clients, just want to tell you very quickly about her. She manifested something quite extraordinary with her book, Bones of the Dead. This is a lady by the name of Elle Newmark who had decided to self-publish her novel and bring it out to the world. And she tried to get an agent. She secured an agent. The agent didn't get a publisher, fired that agent, got another agent. She tried to get a publisher. It wasn't happening. She decided to self-publish her book. And then she self-published her book and realized she needed to learn how to market her book. So she took a program that I taught. And then she got ready to launch it. And when she launched her book, she made it a bestseller on Amazon.com. And the day before her launch, she sat down at her computer and sent 400 emails. Now that probably took a considerable amount of time, maybe a few hours, but she took the extra initiative to follow through. So she sat down at her computer and one by one, she sent emails to editors and agents and publishers just saying, my name is Elle Newmark. I have self-published my book. I'm going to make it a bestseller. You can watch it go up the charts tomorrow, and I'm looking for a publisher. If you're interested in representing me, please get back to me. Within 24 hours, she had a dozen offers. A dozen offers. A couple publishers wanted to send her a contract right away because they were impressed with what she was doing. Here's an author who took the initiative. So she decided to work with a woman from William Morris Agency, which is the largest literary agency in the world out of New York City. So she started working with this woman. And then a week later, she sent me an email and she said, Peg, this agent of mine is going to put my book up for option. I don't even know what that means. Or auction. I don't even know what that means. And she says, a good thing, bad thing? And I said, it's an amazing thing. She thinks that publishers are going to be bidding to get your book. Oh, okay, then I'll relax. 1 week after that, so 2 weeks after her launch, she sends me an email. In the subject line, it says, are you sitting down? I'm at my computer, so obviously I'm sitting down. I open the email, and it says, this morning, Simon & Schuster preempted all other bids and bought the rights to Bones of the Dead for $2.4 million. $2.4 million. That's an unknown author, first book. Unknown author, first book. They changed the name. They didn't like Bones of the Dead. They called it The Book of Unholy Mischief. Same content, different title, different cover. Ben F. Shea, who's sitting here in the front of the room, she wrote a beautiful book called Beautiful Reminders. I remember when Ben F. Shea first called me and she was talking about how she was almost like channeling these incredible messages that she was sharing on Facebook, and people were really feeling inspired and in awe. And she decided, I think I'm going to put these together and collect them together and put them into a collection called Beautiful Reminders was the name that I came up with actually for her book, and along with some of her own photography, and she created this beautiful book and made it an international bestseller. And now she's doing programs with her partners and about manifesting your dreams and really expanding beyond that book. We also have another author in the room. We have actually many authors in the room that are part of Destinies. This was an idea that came to me just a few months ago. If you're a Destinies author, stand up. These Destinies authors. This is a collaborative book. Look at that. Congratulations to our Destinies authors. We are going to be releasing this book in January, and I'm going to tell you the stories are amazing, amazing that are going to be in this book. It's not like a chicken soup for the soul kind of book. I mean, it'll be special like that, but it's not only what they did, but it's also practical how-to stuff as well. So we put something together that's quite special, and that will be released. Bob and Sandy are also co-authoring that book with us. But there's so many opportunities, as I said earlier, when I decided that I'd create a course and bring that course. Everybody's got that opportunity. I was talking with Julie this morning, and Julie Smithwick, who's been helping at the event and contributing in so many different ways. I mean, she's already got a children's book created, and she's got another idea. She started something called Prosperous Moms. And I was saying to her, like, if you want to create some revenue, everybody has the opportunity. We're talking about sources, multiple sources of income. We're talking about Jamie's. Did you bring me one, Jamie? Did you? Oh, good. Now we're talking about Jamie with her peanut butter squares. That's a potential source of income. And there's so many different things that we can do, taking our own experience and our own knowledge and create these multiple sources where you are sleeping and you're making money, like we heard yesterday that a number of people are doing. And so you can create webinar series, you can create group coaching, individual coaching, retreats, courses, certification, speaking, etc. So that's where a really, really big opportunity is. We also have Mick Peterson here in the front row, who wrote another wonderful manifestation story, a total student of all of Bob and Sandy's teachings. And I met Mick at the Science of Getting Rich event in Dallas, Texas. And he had this idea for Stella and that entire concept in his mind for quite some time. And he decided he's going to bring it out to the world. So he brought Stella out to the world with Stella and the Timekeepers, and he self-published this novel. Well, it ended up in the hands of Phil Goldfine. So if you're looking at that picture, Bob was talking about Phil Goldfine and how he had that stack of gold cards that he had achieved, and he's won his Academy Award, and he was here at the last event. This is a picture of Mick. I took the photo because I was with him at the time, in Phil Goldfine's office, because Phil has bought the option rights to the movie. And he sees this as something bigger than Harry Potter. Mick is writing a trilogy. He's working on his second book right now. And it's going to be a billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar franchise. That's his vision. As Ben F. Shea says, he's playing the billion-dollar game. Right? Ben F. Shea came to my home. We were working on some planning for her, and I said, let's play a multi-million-dollar game. And then a little while later, she called me and says, I'm no longer playing the million-dollar game. I'm playing the billion-dollar game. And that's what Mick's doing. He's in the billion-dollar game. Now here's an example of a consultant, a woman named Carol Abramson, who wrote a book called Not 3, but 21, The Investor Relations Audiences Every CEO and CFO Who's Serious About Attracting Wall Street Interest Must Understand. She gave away 250 copies. 100 clients hired her out of that, and she generated $2 million in consulting fees. She didn't even sell her books. She gave them away. Bob's been giving away You Were Born Rich. Right? When you arrived here and you got your bag with all the wonderful goodies in the binder, you received a number of books. It can lead to other business. Many authors do that. They give their books away as a lead generator. Onyx Singal, who many of you probably have met through Bob Proctor and through the Proctor Gallagher organization. He hadn't written a book. We became friends. Brian Proctor introduced me to Onyx, and he said, I want to get this book done, and I want to bring it out to the world. So Onyx Singal did the same thing. He gave away his book. He brought it to the world, gave it away. 30,000 people downloaded a free copy of his book. But in it was an invitation to join one of his webinars. where he was going to give information away. People got on the webinar, and then he invited them to his program. From launching his book, from giving it away, and this is a very rare and unique experience, he generated $11.1 million. $11.1 million. Yeah, it does deserve a clap, Wendy. Who can do that? Anyone, absolutely anyone. We have Rodney. Rodney's right here in the front row. Rodney is a prolific machine. This is his third book, actually. Rodney's written 3 books now. He wrote a book. Rodney had an accident when he was a teenager and he was playing football. And in football, you know, there's tackles, and he got knocked down. And people were coming up to him saying, "Get up, get up." And he wanted to get up, he just couldn't get up. He ended up being paralyzed. And they told him he would never walk again. He didn't accept that. He said, "I'm going to walk again." You've probably seen him walk in here today. They didn't expect Rodney to walk again. And he's sharing his experience and his knowledge and his belief systems that allowed him to get up. And his book's called Get Up. He calls himself the Get Up Guy. He's built a whole brand around it. He has programs. He has events now. He's created multiple sources of revenue from one idea. From his experience, get up, I can't, I will, I did. Here's how. Regardless of what your situation is, Rodney's an inspiration for many of us. And I know that experience for Rodney is the same experience that many of us as authors have, is it causes us to grow. It causes us to expand, because if you're writing a book about getting up, you got to step up, right? You're writing a book about how to be successful. You must be successful. You got to live it. You're now accountable. People are expecting it out of you. So I suggest you do something today that your future self is going to say thank you. You got that opportunity. I wrote one of my books in a weekend. You get disciplined, you get focused, you sit down, you decide you're going to do it. Now, when I made the decision I was going to write my 8th book in a weekend, I didn't know if I was going to do it or not, but I decided to try. And my husband invited his relatives to our house for the weekend. So I put a little kink into my plans. So they didn't arrive till Saturday afternoon. Saturday morning, got up and I did an entire outline. Sunday morning, I woke up at 3:30. I went into my office and I put a do not disturb sign on and I wrote a chapter an hour. By Sunday night, that book was done. Off to the editor that week. And it was published a week after that. Anybody can do this. So now what I want to share with you is a book that Sandy Gallagher and I are looking at writing together called Future Memories. We'll have the order forms passed out a little later so we can take your order. You know, we did this as a joke, but you know, you hear Sandy talking about future memories, and she was talking about her Fitbit, and I got a Fitbit. I didn't know Sandy had a Fitbit. I got a Fitbit about a month ago, and you know, when I was at Bob's event in July, and Bob was talking about goal achievement. That was the entire event, of course, bringing in the paradigms and all of that, and he was talking about our self-image. You know, it's our paradigms that are stopping us. And I was thinking to myself, it's time that I got back into that body. That's actually not our bodies. I know it surprises you, but I said it was time to get back into the body. And so I'll talk to Sandy. She's probably going to shoot me. But we'll see if maybe we could write that book together. I think it'd be a fun book. But anyways, absolutely my pleasure to be of service to you here today. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys. Thanks, Bob.
Great picture. We have an artist that Patty Knowles. That's Patty's daughters there. That was on the cover of a fitness magazine in Phoenix. And Sweetie here stole the picture. You wish. Patty did the cover for you? I'd seen that before somewhere. I was standing over there and I was thinking, she is stretching people's minds. How many minds were moved? How many of you felt your mind being stretched? I guess. And I have watched Peggy grow in this business from where she was to where she is. And just absolutely incredible success. And I can tell you exactly what's done it. Is writing with the other hand. No, I did not do it. You did it. You did it. And you pull it up. I'll get up. Here. There we go. Peggy developed discipline. And when you have discipline, you will develop your talent. You've already got the talent. It's a matter of bringing it to the surface. And that's exactly what she's done. She was talking about the book with Joe Vitale. Joe Vitale was in a seminar. And he came up to me. The book was Spiritual Marketing that you're referring to. And he was a very quiet guy. And he said, he was writing a book called Spiritual Marketing. He said, what do you think? And I said, I think that's a phenomenal idea. So then at some point in the seminar, he said he was thinking of it. He had started to play around with it. I announced that Joe here was writing a book, Spiritual Marketing, and I want all of you to buy a copy, give him the money, take the order, and he'll send it to you as soon as it's done. And I said, you write it, I'll write the foreword in it. And that was Joe's first book. And he probably has sold more books online than anybody else selling books online. You see, it's not a matter of magic. It's not a matter of having some talent that everybody else doesn't have. It's a matter of making decisions. You got to build the idea. We talked about this yesterday. Now, this is you today, and you have the ability to think. And you've got a paradigm in there that's holding you where you are. So what we want to do is shift that paradigm and make the shift constant and certain. It's not something we're going to see if it'll work. It's something we're going to do. It's just a decision. Any success I have enjoyed or our company's enjoyed, yes, it's just, I just make decisions. I'm going to do this. I have no idea how I was going to do it.
Hi, it's Peggy McColl again. As Bob Proctor says, your whole life can change when you make a decision. It's so powerful. Right now, you have an opportunity to decide. Decide to be a best-selling author. Decide to be a powerful contribution to the world. Decide to create multiple streams of income. One of the very first books that I launched allowed me to generate $37,000 in 48 hours. While I can't say that this kind of result is typical, it's certainly attainable when you work with the right idea and you get that idea working for you, which is what I'm here to help you to do. We all have a story to tell, every one of us, each one of us. In fact, often we have multiple stories locked up inside of us. Here we have 12 books that I've published so far, many of which become bestsellers, international bestsellers, and all of which have created streams and sources of income for me while I make a difference in people's lives and with every idea. Now, I'm very blessed, but you're also blessed just the same. And all you need to do is decide. See, your books could even be translated into multiple languages, mine have, and sold in many, many countries all over the world. But you know what? It's not as hard to do as you might think. Here's the thing. You do have to do it by yourself, but you can't do it alone. Anyone who's ever created success, authors included, myself included, required the help, the assistance, and advice of people that knew what they were doing, and that's what I'm offering. People like Wayne Dyer, Neil Donald Walsh, Marianne Williamson, Marcy Shimoff, every single one of the magnificent people that I'm mentioning and that you see on your screen right now, I have helped with their books. And there's no difference between you and them or you and me. All you really require is the awareness that you can achieve this dream, and of course you need some guidance to get there. Now this slide just shows you a number of the best-selling books that I've helped my clients create phenomenal results, all New York Times bestsellers. Now these are just a few of the books that I've been blessed to help, or a few authors that I've been blessed to help. PZ Ling, a lovely woman from Cambodia originally, now living in New Zealand, said to me, she sent me this note. She said, when I look back, I had no idea what to do apart from a desire to write a book. I tried it many times in my own way. I could not write past 5 pages. With your guidance, it made me think that it's possible for me to put a book out in the world, and you showed me how. That's what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to show you how, because I know it's possible. Now, Jennifer Colford, another one of my clients, she wrote her book, made it a bestseller in 60 days. Now, here's what she says.
I'm Jennifer Colford. I contacted Peggy McColl with an idea for a book and a really big goal. 2 months later, I'd written and published my book, Managing Mothering, and it was an international bestseller.
You know what? She followed through because she had been guided on what to do. Now, I'm going to share with you a quick clip from Mick Peterson, who you've heard me and Bob Proctor talk about.
Hi, I'm Mick Peterson, author of Stella and the Timekeepers, a young adult fiction book that I took to #1 on Amazon in all 5 of its categories, and it has now been optioned by Phil Goldfine to be a major motion picture. And all of this happened because of the mentorship that I received from Peggy McColl. When I first met her, I was a flight attendant, I was a landlord, and I was struggling. I wasn't particularly happy with my life. But she encouraged me to dream big, set my goals, and follow through. Since meeting her and being mentored by her, my life has completely changed, and I'm living the life of my dreams. Thank you, Peggy. I'm so honored to have you as my mentor. And if you are thinking about working with Peggy, I would tell you to run as fast as you can to her. She will guide you in the best possible way. She is of service to people. That is what makes her very happy in life. So thank you so much, Peggy, for everything that you've done for me and for all the other people out there that you've helped.
You know what? Mick was encouraged to dream big. He did dream big, and he's pursuing his goals, and amazing things are happening. They continue to happen for him, including his book, Stella and the Timekeepers, being optioned into movie rights and being developed into a trilogy who his producer believes will be bigger than Harry Potter. And of course, Carol Abramson, who wrote a book, and she just gave away 250 copies. She didn't even sell them, but out of that, 100 clients hired her. That resulted in $2 million in consulting fees. It's absolutely amazing what you can do, or what anyone can do, when they simply put their mind to it. David Ricklin, another one of my clients and a friend, founder of Self Growth, took my advice to generate $184,256 in sales of an ebook. No inventory, no shipping costs. He wrote it, put it online, sold it, changed lives, and earned money. It's really that simple. Another one of my clients, Dr. Cynthia Thike, who wrote the wonderful best-selling book, Your Vibrant Heart. She talks about how I gave her value that she felt was 10 times the investment. Well, Cynthia Thike was in my annual mentoring program, so she invested a considerable amount more than simply my programs. But what she said was, this was unsolicited. She sent me an email and said it's worth 10 times the investment. And I appreciate that she said that. My goal is to serve the world. I want to help you create multiple sources of income so that you're always earning money, even if you're sleeping. And guess what? If one source ever goes away, you've got other sources, other things to pick up the slack. This is truly how the 1% of the world's population earns their wealth. And of course, you can do it too. So my suggestion is give yourself an investment in yourself. Join the Bestseller Money Makers program right now because I'm including some real exciting high value bonuses that I'm giving away to you right now. So I want to just go through real quick, everything that you're going to get as you enroll and invest in the Bestseller Moneymaker program. I've divided the program into 3 simple modules. Write your book, make it a bestseller, and create sources of revenue, either from your book or from your knowledge or from ideas, multiple ideas. And so it starts with several modules or several webinars on how to write that book, finish that book, get it published, get it self-published, and out there in the world. How important it is to title it, how do you price it, how many words makes a great book. All of that is gone through in complete in-depth. Everything that you need to know to get your book done, to bring it out to the world, and to show you just how easy it is. The next module covers multiple webinars, are all going to be live classes online. You'll have access to me in each and every one of the classes where you can ask me any questions that you desire on how to make your book or books bestsellers, including how to get on that New York Times bestseller list. Everything that's required to market your book online from the comfort of your home to create that bestseller status that, as you know, you will own forever. Once you become a best-selling author, whether it's an international best-selling author or a New York Times best-selling author, as you know, you own that forever. So I give you all of the steps that I take, what I've done, what you can do. Everything is taught in the program with a lot of resources for you as well. And then I get into a really fun series of webinars called the Money Making Author. These are all live online classes. I'm going to walk you through revenue producing models, how to extend beyond your book, or how to create multiple sources of income. Where do ideas come from? How do you expand them? How do you launch them? How do you bring them to the world in a way that serves the world and provides very, very healthy income for you? You'll also be able to connect with all the other people that are in the program. You'll be able to be part of a community of people that are truly committed and moving forward, who are making it in this world. And when you register today, you're also going to get limited bonus called the brand new Bestseller Insider Secrets, which is what every author needs to know so that you can avoid the mistakes that a whole bunch of authors make that are going to cost you time and cost you money. So we'll get into all of that, the Bestseller Insider Secrets. Then, so you have the right mentality of abundance so that you can attract the abundance into your life. An area that I specialize in is called Riches in Abundance. I'm going to help you attract the abundance that you truly deserve. And when you register before the 19th of December, which happens to be my birthday, I'm going to also throw in one ticket to the Total Author Immersion Live that you are welcome to come. You can confirm if you're coming as long as you're registered in the Bestseller Moneymaker program. It's 2.5 days, January 23rd, 24th, 25th. And it's called Total Author Immersion, where you're going to be in the room with several other people. We'll talk about creating the book, creating programs, creating sources, everything that you require, that you need to know to be a successful author in this world. Now, this event alone is $4,250. I'm throwing it in. I'm throwing in one ticket for you for that. It's included in your registration for the Bestseller Moneymakers program. There's a couple different options for you. You can go to bestsellermoneymakers.com. You can check it out. You can see that you've got an option to pay in full, or you can go on a 3-payment program. Either way, you're going to get instant access to the program, and you can start working on your book over the holidays if you want to. And the offer is available right here, right now. So all you need to do, just click on the button below, Bestseller Moneymakers. It'll take you over there. You can check it out. You'll learn more information. And more importantly, get yourself registered. I look forward to serving you.